All right, let's bring in former Assistant Secretary of State for George W. Bush and former Naval Intel Officer Robert Charles. Robert, great to see you this morning. Set the stage for us here and talk to us about the importance of today's events and how you view the strength of this NATO alliance during a time when there are no shortage of conflicts in this world.
Yeah, so for starters, Carly, good morning to both of you. And, for starters, what Trump is doing is teaching leadership and efficiency in one fell swoop. He comes in here having intervened. He's a non-interventionist, except when intervention creates deterrence. And so really what ought to happen here is he should get a hero's welcome. I'm not sure that the European allies, allied as they are, tend to give heroes welcomes. But this is a very different NATO conference for many reasons. The first is, of course, that he has just done something that many presidents, talked about, but ultimately he said, look, enough is enough. When Iran steps over the line and threatens one of our allies, indeed threatens all of Europe, indeed threatens the world, we will step up. We had the only B-2s in the world. We had the only bunker buster of that size in the world. We intervened, we acted, over, done. And at this moment, obviously, they have to go beyond a ceasefire, and they have to move in the direction of a real permanent disgorgement or giving up of the nuclear program, or there's going to be other consequences. But at the end of the day, Trump's bond is his word, and his word with all of our allies is crystal clear. You have to act, you have to lead, you have to deter. And I bring this all back to deterrence, including that 5% number. What he's teaching is that peace through strength is a real thing. You intervene when behaviors have to be corrected, and then you step back and you expect the best of our allies, and you expect the world to understand that peace through strength is a very real doctrine. So the 5%, he's asking, look, we're defending you. We just defended you. We will defend you under Article 5, but we also expect you under Article 3 to pick up and do your job to defend yourselves. And that is, of course, what should have happened right immediately after World War II. They should have bucked up. I mean, Eisenhower has been asking all the way forward. Presidents have been asking Europe to step up in their own defense. So I think what he's doing is extraordinarily prudent. It's the exact same thing. I mean, I'm running for governor of Maine, but I'll tell you, it's the exact same thing. The same principle: deterrence or appeasement is at work anywhere in the world. That's why, for example, Donald Trump deploying the National Guard in California in defense of law enforcement was exactly the right thing to do to quell riots. So deterrence works. If your word is good, by God, people want to listen.
And to be clear, Robert, as running for governor of Maine, you are trying to deter rogue forces within your state. You're not worried about Canada and Massachusetts. I want to get that out of the way now. With that, you touched upon something I think very important, and it's this notion of peace through strength. To me, to Carly, to you, this seems obvious. And to Dwight D. Eisenhower, it seemed obvious. So why in the intervening decades, and what I'm going to refer to as the world before Trump, why did that world stray away so far from that concept to really a concept of Neville Chamberlain and appeasement?
Todd, you're a Dartmouth-trained guy, and you're absolutely right. That is what the world did, absent the Reagan years. In the Reagan years, actually, Reagan went in and destroyed half of Iran's navy, and after they had hit tankers in the Gulf, and they backed off immediately. Sometimes why have they done that? Because it's always easier to be weak than it is to be strong. But in the long term, it's always easier to be strong first to prevent future weakness. And to put a fine point on it, if the collective allies had acted against Germany's buildup of their air forces in Air Force, the Luftwaffe, and some of their ground strength in 1935, World War II would never have probably happened. So if you think about it for a minute, what Trump has done is prevented World War III. He's done it very decisively. He's showing both here and abroad what leadership looks like. And by God, we should all be taking notes.
Yeah, and we just saw French President Emmanuel Macron enter the World Forum in The Hague, waving to cameras as he stepped out of his vehicle. And yesterday, Robert, as the president was flying to the Netherlands, he got on the phone with Benjamin Netanyahu to try and shore up this very fragile ceasefire deal. And he said, call back your fighter pilots. And that's exactly what happened. So the president has attended many NATO summits before, and initially he was viewed as an outsider and then a disruptor. How do you think he is going to be viewed by other world leaders today? What will they be thinking when they interact with him?
Well, as long as they don't have this catchy disease, anti-Trump syndrome, I think they're gonna give him a tremendous welcome. I mean, look, he protected them. Iran has medium-range missiles. If they had taken the next couple of weeks, turned that enriched uranium into a deliverable weapon, put it on a medium-range missile, Europe, every city in Europe, every place in Europe would have been at risk. So if justice prevails in the world, and it often does not, I think the NATO leaders should say to him privately, you know what? Presidents for decades have talked. You're a man of words and action, not talk. Thank you. We're going to do our part by pitching in 5% to the overall NATO, 5% of our GDPs to the overall NATO budget. It's going to shore it up. With your actions and our actions, we're going to teach both Russia and China that there is no room for adventurism in the future. And so, his call to Netanyahu was really the call of an ally who has stepped up for another ally to say, listen, I did my part. Now you pull back and let's work on trying to get a solid, lasting peace in the Middle East. And then, by the way, let's expand that.
Robert, I almost hesitate to ask this next question because of the fluid nature of our world right now, where world events seem to change by the minute. As we saw yesterday, there's no ceasefire, then there was a ceasefire, then there was no, then it was back on. But my question is to the future. In a post-Trump world, will these European nations, by and large, the members of NATO, stick to this 5% threshold once Trump is out of office? Or is this just, to borrow the word appeasement again, to appease Trump?
Yeah, it's a great question, Todd. I mean, when you discipline a bad child, do they remember the lesson, or do they fall back again? And I think the lesson here, even beyond his ask for 5% from 2%, the lesson that should be learned, actions speak louder than words. And what he demonstrated is that deterrence ultimately is the right answer. You intervene intermittently in order to shore up deterrence. But if you say that you are going to defend yourself, if you say that France or Germany or Great Britain will step up for another European country, you have to be true to your word. And we, of course, have to be true to our word, that we will step up for them. But it's a remarkable question, really, historically. I guess I would like to believe that some lessons stick. And some of the lessons of World War II are being taught again in microcosm right here by Donald Trump. And it may be that they don't like Trump, but the lesson itself is hard to look away from. When you speak with firmness, or to borrow from Theodore Roosevelt, walk softly and carry a big stick, but every once in a while you got to use the big stick. And then people say, okay, I get it. I need to stay in my box. So this is not just a lesson right now for Iran. This is a lesson for all of our allies to behave in exactly the same way, to unify in order to deter the escalation of bad behavior on the part of rogue states or adventurous states. And I would like to believe that Russia and China learn a lesson out of this.
Yeah, and right now we see the leader of Hungary speaking to the media before he heads into the World Forum. And I mentioned before that the president said that he might be meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky. And he is attending, obviously going to be continuing to make that push to join NATO. Is that something that you ever see happening?
I would always say the urgent comes before the important. And so even if you believe that it is important that eventually Ukraine have some relationship that's stronger than the one they have currently with NATO, that's a ways off over the horizon. And part of what you have to do is what Trump is doing here has a tremendous second and third order effect. It's not only between Iran and Israel. This is actually going to be a force that assists in ending the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And if I was Zelensky, I wouldn't be trying to push for, a fantasy admission overnight to NATO. I would be wanting to push for peace in my country and work a deal, which he was reluctant to work, but work a deal in which the United States helps to create a tripwire inside Ukraine, builds them back again, essentially helps them by causing them to actually pay for their own Marshall Plan, but allows our businesses to go in and help them recreate it with their own resources, and then deter Russia from bad behavior, not just by what we did in the Middle East, but by behaving in a way that shows that they themselves understand that they have obligations. So, Europe is looking at this environment as one that's highly unstable. I would tell you that what Trump has done is injected a degree of significant stability into the environment, and I don't think Ukraine needs to become a member of NATO. Maybe never, but at the very least, not right now.
Robert Charles, thank you as always for your insight on so many topics. We crammed into about 15 minutes there as we watch the arrivals there from World leaders, NATO member leaders to the big NATO summit. We're awaiting President Trump's arrival any minute now. Robert, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.